Let's just get through this as quickly as possible. That way it could be less painless.
Buddy, how you doing?
Surge, right?
I'm like dazzled by your new look. Look at your skin and your hair. And then finally you have black hash poopies, which are totally retro, which I love. You put a really good package together.
Beverly Hills Cop 3 is directed by John Landis and written by Stephen E. Del Souza. Film stars Eddie Murphy, Judge Reinhold, Héctor Elizondo, and Theresa Randle. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, Axel Foley, while investigating a car theft ring, comes across something much bigger than that. The same men who killed his boss are running a counterfeit money ring out of a theme park in Los Angeles. Guys, I'm just gonna get right to the chase. This movie's terrible. In so many ways, this is easily the worst film in this franchise. It's an accomplishment of how it could get worse, and it does. It's just an embarrassment of not what this franchise is supposed to be, but just as a sequel, it fails on so many fronts. This movie's so bad that there was never a follow-up to this movie for 30 years. That's how bad this film was. When I watched it the first time, I thought I saw one positive with this movie. I legit thought there was. After rewatching it, let me tell you, there's none of that. There's no positives with this movie at all. I thought there could have been, if I remember correctly, but no. After watching it, there wasn't. So let's just now jump right into the negatives with this entire film. The performances, they're embarrassing. They're almost just, in a way, kind of sad if you think about it. Eddie Murphy tries his best as Axel Foley. He is this character. He has been playing this character for 2 movies, and so you would think he would still have it. And he does. He tries so hard of trying to retain what Axel Foley is, but even he wasn't enough due to his lack of enthusiasm, because I understand that Eddie Murphy had recently said with the latest film that he wasn't really in the right state of mind when he was making this movie and that he thought it was a mistake, and he has now said that this is a terrible movie, and I'm glad that he could see that. But really, it's just his lack of enthusiasm and what the material he's working with, it's just not enough to overcome it. The more he tries with the script, the more his efforts sink lower and lower each time. Judge Reinhold, like Murphy, tries his best. He really does. I think, honestly, these two really do try giving it their all, but suffers with his enthusiasm. He even kind of feels like he doesn't want to do this movie, or he felt like this movie was a mistake as well, like Murphy, and what he's working with. This is legit everything they are trying to work with regards to how the script is written, but even with both Murphy and Reinhold, it's just sad. It really is. It's just sad to see these two put everything that they can, but in the end, their efforts aren't enough to overcome this abysmal script, but we'll get to that in a bit. Alonso feels shoehorned into this movie as a whole. It's a shame that there's no John Ashton or Rodney Cox, but again, they dodged a bullet. But Hector Alonso, he's trying to be a fill-in for John Ashton for Taggart, and you just can't replace Taggart. You just can't. It's very hard to do, and for them to even try to bring in another guy is supposed to be like another Taggart, it's a waste of time. You might as well have just been about Axel and Billy. That's it. I don't need another guy to fill in for Taggart, because honestly, it's not worth the hassle. And like I said, thank God that Ashton Cox dodged a bullet with this movie entirely. That's good for them at the very least. Theresa Randle feels pointless and flat as Foley's love interest in this movie. And yes, she is supposed to be the love interest, and the movie makes that very, 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 very clear that she is supposed to be the love interest. She brings no personality or effort at all. Nothing to match the level of what Eddie Murphy had brought, but then again, in this movie, he doesn't bring a whole lot because of that material. Both Murphy and Randall feel awkward and stiff with each other anytime they try to have chemistry with one another. It almost feels like they're teenagers. They almost feel like they're like teasing each other, or like they've never been in love. They're finding a hard time to like show their affection for one another, and that's what it kind of comes off like with these two. And as for everyone else, they're all struggling. They really are. Everyone in this movie is struggling, so much so. It's honestly just embarrassing. That's the only thing I can describe. I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm truly being serious. It's just embarrassing to see everyone putting in as much as they can, but no avail. Direction is terrible. Director John Landis doesn't know how to balance both the grittiness and comedy that the series is known for. Could have gotten a better choice for a director, because John Landis is a comedy director. He's more of a comedy filmmaker. He's not a comedy action director, he's a comedy director. I'm sure there have been some action sequences in some of his movies, but really, it's comedy. That's his shtick. That's his bread and butter. I'm not trying to discredit the man and say that he's a comedic director. I'm not saying that at all. But here in this movie, I feel like he does not know how to balance what Beverly Hills Cop is supposed to be. Because it seems like the comedy aspect is just sinking into this movie, and the action is non existent. It's almost low effort, if you ask me. But his styling that he brings to this movie, it's just not hitting. It's not flowing with this movie. It's not going along with what the series is known for. It's kind of going against itself a lot of the times. The action is sloppy. It feels like a stage show or a stunt show in how the action is presented. Like if you were to go to like a stunt show at like Universal Studios or Disney or anything, I feel like the action is kind of like that. It kind of feels like a stage show in a way that you accept those because they're at the very least, they're presentable in the sense of like, it's not supposed to be super high budget type of deal, but for a movie like this, it's embarrassing. It feels lazy. It really just feels lazy on how the action is presented. The writing is garbage. Writer Steven D. Souza crafts a script that's both goofy and just plain stupid. This might as well just be a slapstick cartoon more than it is a gritty action comedy. Like, the fact that this is an R-rated movie, and people, yes, you heard me right, this is R-rated, yet I wouldn't blame anybody to think that, is this PG-13? Yeah, I could see that, or PG, more than R, because there's nothing R-rating about this movie other than just minor blood and maybe some curse words. That's it. Because honestly, there's hardly any sort of grit or rawness to this movie that first movie did. But even the second one, as much as I've had my problems with the second one, that at least had some grit to it. That at least had some reminiscence of Beverly Hills Cop. This doesn't. The editing is bad. Every scene feels stitchily put together, and it's all over the place. In so many ways, there are sequences in this movie where the editing is so poorly done. There's a sequence where Axel is on a ride, and he's trying to save these kids, and they're trying to show the reaction of the crowd of seeing this all go down. One moment, they're in shock and awe. The next moment, they're just standing there like, with no reaction. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? And there's bits like that throughout this movie that you look at the reaction shots, they're poorly put together. It's just, in words, just wow. Wow, 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 wow. Man, that was bad. The story is horrible. It starts promising, okay? It does. I can't deny that. It still starts off goofy, as this movie is. But I'm like, okay, there's some promising stuff that could work with this. But once Axel gets to Beverly Hills, the further this plot sinks even further. It's a low bar for how this movie sinks into the bin, like a garbage bin. It's almost like you're watching paper dissolve in water. Like, the ship's falling apart, but you made the paper boat so badly that it's just sinking and it's dissolving with the water. It is quite astonishing in how much they managed to sink this story with regards to everything about it. The music is not good. Composer Nile Rodgers doesn't come close to what Harold Faltermeyer brought with the first two movies. Regardless of what I felt about the second, at least the music still fit within the tones of Beverly Hills Cop. Even the iconic song doesn't hit the same as before. And that is surprising. Axel F, the one that Harold Faltermeyer did, that can't even hit the same note as the first two movies. At the very least, that music could still work in those films. Here, it doesn't. And most of the music is just such an odd range of comedic songs and just weird, awkward placements of like, I get that it's at an amusement park, but like just the music for the amusement park just does not fit into what Beverly Hills Cop is supposed to be. I'm serious with that. The production is lazy. Everything about the sets and the costumes are just straight up terrible. The costumes at the theme park to the sets themselves, they look cheap as all hell. It also feels like everything was just rushed and put together. Like, there's a prop in this movie that's supposed to be like a multi-used gun, and that looks like that shit was just slapped together at like the last few minutes. because everything else about that thing looks terrible. It was just there for a gag and for foreshadowing for Axel to use that weapon near the end of the movie. That's it. Because everything else with regards to the sets and how it all looks, it just all looks so cheap. Cinematography is stiff. Cinematographer Mac Alberg shoots a hollow and lifeless movie that makes the film feel restricted. Nothing exciting or stands out at all. The cinematography, as much as, again, I have to repeat, the second movie's cinematography, I wasn't crazy. I thought it was too flashy, but very least, it's the 80s, shot like a music video. Not great, but it's whatever. Here, it just makes everything about this movie look so cheap in regards to how it's shot and how it's framed. And even the action sequences and how they're framed look so bad. Just terrible all around. The villain is awful, just like the previous film, except worse, as he's just your typical bad guy. That's it, but he works at a theme park. That's the whole point with this villain, that he just works at a theme park and trying to use this theme park as a counterfeit money laundering scheme. That's it. That's all you get out of this villain. Such a weird position to be as well with regards to a villain's status. He works security at this theme park, but like it just feels so odd for a villain to have that position. Like you would think they would be in like a super wealthy, privileged position, but it's like, I feel like this is like a day job, and yet nothing about this villain is coming across as intimidating nor threatening. Again, this is a total embarrassment. Hands down, not only is this the worst film in the franchise, but it's easily one of the worst movies I have seen. And again, this movie was so bad that they couldn't make another one for 30 years. I mean, I'm sure there was other things like Murphy's involvement and, he hasn't been in films afterwards. Like after the 2000s, he kind of started slowly not being in movies a lot, but still, it's the reason this movie failed in terms of being a Beverly Hills Cop movie that it took them this long to make another one and to redeem themselves in some way. But as it stands, I'm going to give Beverly Hills Cop 3 a 0 out of 10. This is bad, you guys. This is terrible. How is this a sequel to one of the best action comedies of the 80s? How is that possible? Because I couldn't tell you, because it's just a total embarrassment. That's why. But regardless, I'm glad to have gotten through this, because honestly, this was just embarrassing to even just talk about. Just, oh wow. Now I will have my review for Beverly Hills Cop XOF, and then we can move on to the Twister movies. So yes, look forward to those reviews and other movie TV show reviews coming soon.